Gennady Golovkin versus David Lemieux. Now, I understand the fight hasn't been officially announced, but Golovkin did sort of announce it via his Twitter and said that he'll be fighting Lemieux, tagged Lemieux in the post. So I think we can take that as fairly conclusive that this fight will be happening next. I'll do a more extended video before the fight with some sort of in-depth analysis and more sort of an in-depth breakdown, but I just wanted to put some initial thoughts at this stage. I would sort of caveat that by saying that obviously as the fight builds up I'll do a bit more research, a bit more looking into it, and it's not impossible that I could change my opinion. However, at this early stage I've got a strong lean in this fight. So just briefly, David Lemieux, he deserves to be in with Golovkin. In my opinion, he is probably the best opponent Golovkin's ever faced. The level that Lemieux has operated at is possibly slightly lower than Daniel Gill and Martin Murray, but I'd say in terms of what he brings to the ring, he has a higher chance of beating Golovkin than either of those guys in my eyes. I think what's interesting about David Lemieux is that he brings a different style. You know, we've seen so many guys who are scared of Golovkin, who try and fight him on the back foot, who Golovkin makes run around and Golovkin can position up against the ropes and land shots up against. David Lemieux, hypothetically, is the kind of fighter who can ask different questions of Golovkin. You know, a lot of people have speculated Golovkin doesn't have a back foot game. Well, David Lemieux can be the person to test it out. Lemieux's a come forward, violent, aggressive fighter who punches with bad intention and whose only mode is to come forward throwing bombs. So, you know, I think that's what we're going to see Lemieux doing. We're not going to see him running around trying to outbox Golovkin on the back foot and trying to jab him. We're going to see Lemieux coming forward and trying to knock Golovkin out. Now, Golovkin's defence, in my opinion, is at best leaky. You know, he's leaky coming in. You can hit him with a jab. He trades, and he's not very mindful of his defence. Now, a lot of people have speculated Golovkin is not afraid of being hit because he's so happy to take the lighter power of his opponents. Now we'll see when he fights David Lemieux. Because to be honest, if Golovkin is as defensively open as he was against Martin Murray or against Willie Monroe Jr., then Lemieux becomes quite a live opponent. Because Lemieux can really, really punch. And whilst Golovkin hypothetically has a good chin, he's never been in with anyone who can punch at middleweight like David Lemieux. So we'll see if he's got an actual good chin, if he can take the punches that Willie Monroe Jr. landed on him, for example, but this time coming from David Lemieux. So I think it's an interesting fight. It's an opponent with real power who's coming with some momentum off some good wins. Hassan and Dam. The other guy whose name I forget. The guy who, the light middleweight, stepping up to middleweight. Gabe Rosado. Either way, you know, he's coming with momentum. He's a different style. He'll fight Golovkin in a different way, and he'll ask different questions of Golovkin. I like the fight. And I think it's a good test for Golovkin. Having said that, whilst I like the fight, and whilst I wouldn't discount Lemieux from this fight, I'd have a strong lean towards Gennady Golovkin. Let me tell you why. Firstly, the chin factor. Golovkin's chin is unproven at the top level, but looks relatively solid. David Lemieux's chin, I mean, he's got a stoppage loss, but to my eyes, that stoppage loss against Marco Antonio Rubio was more about quitting, if you like, than being knocked out. But for me, Lemieux has looked like he can get hurt in fights. I saw him lit up ever so slightly by Hassan and Dam and Jikum, for example, who's known to be a lighter puncher. For me, whilst Golovkin's chin is uncertain, at this level, David Lemieux's chin is even more uncertain than Golovkin. And I think that whilst Golovkin may have never fought a puncher like David Lemieux, exactly the same can be said with David Lemieux. He's never fought a fighter like Golovkin. And the other thing I think about Lemieux is he's relatively easy to outbox. I actually think Golovkin may be the more skilled boxer of the two. And both are guys who come forward, they're aggressive, they're not necessarily defensively minded or technically minded guys. But what I would say is, you know, even though like Lemieux won by wide points margin over Hassan and Dam and Jikum, there were times in that fight I felt like he was getting outboxed. You could say the same about the Marco Antonio Rubio fight, which he lost, obviously. There was another fight after Antonio Rubio where Lemieux lost as well. You know, For me, Lemieux at this stage possibly looks like the easier man to outpoint, and he possibly looks like the easier man to knock out. Whilst Lemieux, let's say, who are the top 5 middleweights? It's Golovkin, Cotto, Quillen, and then for me, you could have Andy Lee and Lemieux 4 or 5 in any particular order. So I would say that Lemieux's a top 5 middleweight. I've often said Golovkin's never fought a top 5 middleweight. Well, here is a guy I'm considering a top 5 middleweight. It's a good fight from that perspective. Stylistically, it's an interesting fight. We could learn a lot from it if, Lemieux pushes Golovkin back and clocks him once or twice. We could see what Golovkin's really made of against this type of fighter. So I like the fight. I'm not hating on the fight. Right now, I don't see Lemieux having the durability and having the boxing education to necessarily beat Golovkin. An example I'd give Saul Canelo Alvarez a slightly higher chance, despite the fact he fights at a slightly lower weight class than Lemieux, because I think Canelo is possibly a slightly more educated boxer, and Canelo has given me less concern about his durability. Canelo's not quitting. Canelo seems to have an iron jaw. That's just my thoughts. I'd be quite confident at this point going with Golovkin, but I'm not hating on the fight. Golovkin probably is the best middleweight in the world, and it's no surprise I'm picking him. This is an interesting test, and these are exactly the kind of fights we need to see in order for Golovkin to move up and up the pound for pound list. For me, the issue with Golovkin is just that he hasn't fought the top of his division. How can we have him? Some people have him pound for pound number 3, pound for pound number 4, when he hasn't faced anywhere near the top of his division. I know he's being ducked. I know it's not necessarily his fault, but this is a step in the right direction. I like this fight. I think it's the most intriguing stylistic matchup. Possibly the opponent who has the most live chance of beating him. But Golovkin should have enough against Lemieux. Lemieux is entertaining. He's intriguing, but he's intrinsically flawed. Let me know your thoughts. Are you looking forward to this fight? How do you see it going? Thanks for watching.